All right, guys, welcome back. So this is the fifth video of the fifth video of our series for this week. So one of the things I want to make sure that we don't start off in bad habits. We need to save this document. We have not saved so far. It is Untitled 1. So I'm just going to go to File, Save. And you save pretty much the same way that you do in Photoshop. You tell it where you want it to go. So I'm going to say character, what was his name? His name is Goten, Goten, Goten. Goten character demo. And notice I try not to put spaces in between mine, and that is because a lot of my stuff goes up on the website, and browsers don't really handle spaces well. They'll put like that at 20%. Signs and symbolized spaces. And I just don't want that. So I'm just going to save it the way that I know how to properly save it for me. Like I said, because I do a lot of things on the web. So I'm going to place this in a folder that I'm looking for. Let me see. FCC, yep. I'm going to go into character demo. There it is. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and save it in this folder. And hit OK. All right, so now I have my file saved, which is really the main thing that I need to make sure that I'm starting this off. And so what I want to do in this one is go ahead and start outlining our project. But to outline our project, you need to know a few of the tools. So this first tool, the black arrow up at the top, is your selection tool. What that allows us to do is to select bits and pieces, kind of like the move tool in Photoshop allows you to select and move. This does the same thing. But right below it, you're going to see the white arrow, which is the direct selection tool. And what that's going to allow us to do is to select the points in the paths. And I'm going to illustrate this in a second as soon as I show you the tools that are underneath. The group selection tool is going to allow us to select groups of items, and the lasso tool. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to and right below it is the pen tool, which is going to allow us to draw pins and paths. Inside of here is the anchor point tool, which allows you to manipulate anchors and points. Pen tool is going to allow us to draw paths using the pen tools and Bezier curves. But where we are right now, what I'm going to use is the shape tool, which is going to allow us to draw different shapes. Okay, so I'm going to choose the rectangle tool. I'm going to, actually, before I do that, I forgot that mine is set to default. So what I want to do, anytime, notice right here, so in Photoshop, this was called foreground and background color. That was these two swatches that you see at the bottom. Right now you see mine is black, and then right below it has a strike through. That means that there is zero, none, no stroke, no fill. So this is the stroke and fill. I want the default. A shortcut key, anytime you want to get to default, is to just hit the D key on your keyboard. Or you can come right here where it says default stroke and fill and click it. And the default is going to be a fill of white and a stroke of black. So if you have not played with yours since, this is what it's going to look like. Another thing that I want to do that I just thought of is make sure that my workspace looks like yours in the default. So I'm going to go up here to Window, and I'm going to go down to Workspace, and I'm going to choose the default workspace, which is Essentials, which mine is set at. But because I play in it a lot, it probably looks different than yours. So I'm going to choose Reset Essentials. And when I reset it, now ours should look the same, is what I'm hoping. So yours should look like mine should look like yours. So these are the defaults in the workspace, and there are different workspaces that you might choose to work in. For instance, there's Essentials Classic, which is one of my favorites because it goes back to what I'm used to, which gives me more tools on inside of the panels. The goal of Adobe was to streamline this, which is the Essentials panel so it doesn't look as cluttered and it doesn't have as many options in the bar. But if I showed you Essentials Classic just to show you, and let me reset it because like I said, I work in that just to make sure it looks the same. Okay, so notice you get more options. You get the properties panel, there's the libraries, and you have more options over here. This is my preferred setting because of the fact that I don't have to go and grab swatches, and I use a lot of these all the time. So whichever workspace works for you. Again, this is the regular Essentials, which streamlines that. It takes away that panel and streamlines it because, and the reason is because you can do a lot of things inside of this properties panel as it is. Like, for instance, it changes based off of, it's context sensitive. So if I choose the type tool and I were to type, notice more options show up. So that's why they streamlined it, because these options already show up for you. But if you are, if you just feel better working in the Essentials Classic, work in that. I'm going to try my best to work in this workflow since it is streamlined, and so that you guys can start off with really, really good habits. But we'll see how that goes. I might switch. So if you notice that I switched, it is because I just really need these tools. And but anyway, in any event, this is how you change it. So I'm going to go back to Essentials. I'm going to reset it just to make sure it's set, and there we go. All right, so that's how you change your workspace. But okay, so in any event, so if I choose the rectangle tool with the defaults, I'm going to make a rectangle tool. All right, so this is the rectangle tool. As soon as you draw it, notice you have all the options to transform it. So for instance, I have it, it's drawn, and now I have, if I hover over the corner, I'll be able to rotate it because it turns into that dual-sided arrow, which is going to allow me to rotate the tool. Let me zoom in so you guys can see a little more of what I'm talking about. So just in case you didn't see it, if I hover over the corner, it turns into the dual side. And it might take you a while to get used to the mouse and what's happening, but it turns into this dual arrow. And as a dual arrow, I can turn this around, rotate it however I see fit that's going to work with me and my design. So that is rotating the tool. Also, you'll note that there are 4 little circles inside of this tool. And what that's going to allow you to do is round the corners. So if you wanted this rectangle a little more rounded, all you have to do is grab. So when you hover over it, the black arrowhead turns into, you'll see a little symbol that shows up underneath. And the cool thing about Adobe and what they've built into their tools is these symbols change to show you, hey, this is a different function of the tool. So right now, it has this curved bottom letting you know, hey, you can curve your edges, and all you have to do is click and move it in, and notice how the edges are curving. Guys, I almost have a perfect circle. Okay, so you can curve it in and manipulate it, and this wasn't always here, so this is actually amazing. It's been here for the past few iterations, a while actually. So, but it wasn't always here. I've been with Illustrator a long time and Photoshop, so these tools are advancing all the time, which is awesome. So anyway, so that's how you would curve this if you wanted to curve it. And if you wanted to resize it, you can go in the corner and you can resize it out. Now, if you don't hold the shift key while you resize it, then it's not constraining it, to make sure that it's even on all sides. So you'll want to hold the shift key if you want it to be perfectly in line in the way that you drew it out. All right, so I'm holding the shift key and mine is saying perfect. So if I wanted to go in the sides, I can do the same where I'm, resizing this, so forth and so on, all the sides. So that's how you can resize it. If I wanted to move in 2 sides at once, I can hold the Alt key, and Alt is going to bring in both of these sides a little bit. Let's say I wanted to do that. It'll do the same on both sides. If I wanted to do that and constrain it, then I would hold Shift and Alt, and now you will see that it is constraining it while resizing it as well. So that's pretty much the options that I wanted to make sure you know, and it works the same with all tools. If you have the star tool, polygon tool, ellipse tool, the grid, line segment, all of those work pretty much the same. But the reason I showed you this is with the black arrow, here's what's happening. I am moving this around, right? I'm manipulating this freely, okay? That's the black arrow. I can grab this whole object, all of its points intact as one object and move it. But if I go to the white arrow, right? The white arrow right below it, which is the selection tool. Shortcut keys are going to be your best friend. V is how you get to the black arrow, which is the selection tool. A is how you get to the direct selection tool. Let me see if it changed its name. Nope, the same thing. So A is how you get to the direct selection tool. So what the direct selection tool allows you to do is to manipulate the individual points in this object. Remember with the black arrow, I'm gonna hit V. Remember the black arrow, if I move this around, I'm moving it all around as one unit, not individual points. This is all one unit, right? And if you look at it, it looks like one continuous shape because that's what it is, right? And the only thing that you're manipulating is the size, width, height, what have you. But if you go to the white arrow, which is your selection tool, direct selection tool, or you can hit A, remember, on the keyboard. What now, if you notice, you see these points and paths. So each of these little red, let me zoom in. I'm going to try, guys, see if I can get you guys to see it. So each of these little red dots are points, okay? So those are the points, and in between each point is a path. Okay, so remember before it looked like one unit when we had the black arrow, but now we're actually seeing that there are a lot of points in here to represent. As a matter of fact, there is 8 points that represent this object. And then there are 8 paths, right? That's one path, that's another path, that's another path, that's another path, that's another, and so forth and so on. So if we want to manipulate them, all I have to do with the white arrow is grab it, and right now I have all points and paths selected. So what I'm going to do is I can either double click on one, and then you're going to start to see the points and their handles, right? You're going to start to see that, oh, I can manipulate this. So I can bring out this handle and manipulate it from the path, and it's like a rubber band, right? As far as you cock that rubber band back, right? That's what's manipulating. That's how far this is coming out. So notice I'm going in the direction to the right is where I'm pulling, and notice this inside is pulling, right? It's pulling the shape as far out as I go to the right, so that when I let go, you will see I have just manipulated that shape. I'm going to undo that to do it again, just to make sure you got it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the black arrow. Okay. So I'm at the black arrow, and I have this shape, right? So the black arrow, which is the selection tool, allows me to select the entire object. Make sense? I'm selecting the entire object. Sweet. The direct selection tool, which is the white arrow, or the shortcut key for that is A, will allow me to manipulate individual points. So at this point, I can click on this. I'll see my control handles, and I can move this out and manipulate it however I want. So if I wanted to, make like a little, I don't know, an ear or something, or something like that, I can do it. I can also click on the next point and move it in. So I definitely encourage you guys to play with this, because this pretty much, knowing this is going to help you with any character that you decide. Notice how now I clicked off of it. Oh, well, all I got to do is click right back on it, right? As long as I'm in this white arrow, the selection tool, I can manipulate it however that works for my design. So let's see here. I can also grab the points and do something. So you can see how you can totally change the shape of whatever you're designing. I can also go in between the path, right? So it just pretty much allows me to control individual points and pass to my heart's content. So definitely, please play with this tool, get to know it. And you can see how this started off as a square, but as you can clearly see, this has been manipulated into something totally different, and totally cool. You know it's cool. I want to hear it. I know it's cool, and I know you think it's cool. All right. So this is what it does. Okay. So that's the direct selection tool. Now, if we go to the group selection tool, what that's going to allow me to do is, let's say I also make another square, and all I'm doing is going in there and grabbing different shapes and making different things. So let's say I have all of these, right? I'm going to get the black arrow or hit V to bring this out, okay? So let's say I have these shapes, and let's say I group them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them all, and the shortcut key is Control or Command G. But what I'm going to do, because I want you guys to learn, is I'm going to go to Object, and I'm going to group. Okay, so now these are one group. Okay, I can move them all together. They're one group. Okay, but, which is cool, very cool. But what happens is, if I go to, if I want to manipulate individual ones, I would either have to ungroup, which I don't always want to do, right? Or I'd have to go into the layers panel and select the individual pieces. Sometimes time is money, right? So sometimes that's a lot of time. Or I could go and I can get the direct selection tool, and I could select a certain piece. But remember, the direct selection tool, I'm not generally selecting the whole thing, I'm selecting pieces of it. So that didn't do what I wanted to do. What if I want to actually just grab this square, or I want to grab this star? Well, I'm finding it hard to do without manipulating it. So what I want to do is I'm going to go back over here to this group selection tool, click on that, and now what I can do is I can click, and now I can move and manipulate just those little pieces. Now, the same as Photoshop, there are a million ways to do anything in this program, right? Like I said, I could have went to the layers, I could have just double clicked. There's also isolation mode, which we'll talk about later, and stuff like that. So there's so many ways I could have, accomplished this task. I'm gonna undo. But with the group selection tool, it kind of makes it easier just to click on here and say, I kind of want to grab this and I want to move it out the way and do that. Okay. So that's what that does. And that's what those tools are. So far we talked about the selection tool, which allows you to select the entire object, right? And right now it's selecting the entire object as it is, but now it's looking at this entire object as one object because it's grouped, right? So then we have the direct selection tool, and the direct selection tool allows us to grab pieces of the objects and manipulate them, grab paths. So I can be correct, but it allows us to grab paths and points and manipulate them individually so that we can kind of remanipulate whatever we're working on. So shapes, right? Then inside of there, we have the group selection tool, which is going to allow us to grab individual objects that, sit within groups. So I'm sorry, my allergies today is just crazy. All right, so it allows us to grab individual pieces of the group. And then, so our next tool, and we talked about the shape tool, which was super easy. You're just drawing a shape. Sorry, guys. Hang on one second. All right. I had to stop the recording for a second or pause it because my allergies are killing me today. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, where were we? So the next tool that I want to talk about is this lasso tool. What this is going to allow us to do is to select certain pieces. All right, guys, I am sorry. I haven't, oh my goodness, my allergies are going crazy. So I apologize. I do love that this program allows me to pause, though. So that's awesome. All right. So, um, so this lasso tool that I've been trying to show you is what it's going to allow us to do is to select certain parts of a path. So let's say I wanted to grab this top part and I just want to select it. All I have to do is draw around it. And now, as you can see, when it's selected, that's when it's that solid. See how it's solid? So this solid colored point. When it's not selected, you'll notice it's hollow. Okay. And so these are the areas that aren't selected. So what it allowed me to do was to select these two areas. Pretty cool, right? What if I only want to select this one? It's going to allow me to select this one, and that one becomes hollow. So these work so well together to help you manipulate these points. If you can master these tools that I'm talking to you about now and a few more that we'll talk about in future videos, your life is just going to change immensely. It really is. It's going to be awesome. And Illustrator is going to become your friend. Illustrator can be frustrating at first, though. So, as with any program, you have to go through the frustrating parts to get to, to really see its amazement. But that's what those tools do. So we have um, the again the oh goodness. So again, we have the selection tool, which is going to allow us to select this entire or object, right? Not no matter how many points or paths that's in it, it's selecting the entire object, looking at it as a whole. And as we're looking at this one was grouped, so it looks at this entire object as a whole. We have our direct selection tool, which is going to allow us to select individual points, like and we can hold shift, grab multiple points, or you can even select over, similar to what the lasso tool will do. But with this shape, it's easy for us to, swipe over it to select multiple points. But let's just say we wanted to grab something more complicated, like maybe it was a complicated object and there were points in here. It would be much harder to do, and that lasso tool is going to make it easier, because let's say we only wanted to select this point and this point and that point. It'd be kind of harder, because as we go to move stuff, notice my stuff is moving, right? The stuff that I don't want to select. So that lasso tool is going to allow us to get complicated shapes. But this is what the direct selection tool does. We can select individual points and work with those. When it's super complicated, that's when we got to go to our lasso tool. All right, so our group selection, again, this is going to allow us to grab individual parts of the group, like the star, if I only wanted to work on that, and select that. Now that I have the group selection tool, I can select that. And then again, our lasso tool would be how, if I wanted to grab just these points right here, these particular points right here, which would be hard to grab otherwise, I was able to do it because I can control by drawing, what areas that I want to select. So that's why that's so super awesome. All right. And then we went over the shape tool. Super easy. You're just pretty much drawing the shape out. Now with the shape tool though too, so if I wanted the star tool, I'll show this example with this. There are modifier keys that you definitely want to make sure you're using. So if I go, now I'm still holding the mouse and all I'm doing is drawing out a shape. So I haven't done anything with it yet. What I can do though, which is kind of cool, I can hit the up and down arrows to get more of the shape. And now people always say, well, what did you just do? So, right, I'm holding down the mouse. I have not let it go yet. All I did was draw out a shape. And now what I'm doing is clicking the up and down arrows, and I'm getting either more or less points added to the shape. Okay, pretty cool. The right and left arrows on some tools work as well. So make sure you're using those. If I draw this shape and I don't really like the location that it's in, like for instance, now it's off of the page. You guys see that? I can hold down the space bar. I'm still holding down the mouse though. So you got to use your other hand. Your other hand has to come in. So I'm holding down the space bar so that I can move this shape into a better spot. Now with that held down, click, and now I have and now I have the shape where I want it. So these modifier keys are your keys like your shift key, your option key, your command key if you're on a Mac, your control key. Those type of keys help you so much. They really do. Now I'm going to draw another star so that I can show you something. I'm going to bring it down, maybe down here by holding the space bar. What if you wanted as a matter of fact, this one is so dynamic. What I'm gonna do is move into this area because it's about to blow your mind. So what if I wanted to take this shape, but I want to do more with it, right? While I have, hang on, let me bring it back to where it was, back to its normal. Sorry, a 5-point star. So if I hold down the tilde key, which is the key that's it's right next to the one on my Mac. Where's the tilde key on yours? The tilde key is under the escape key. I'm not quite sure where it is on Windows. Let me check real quick just to make sure. I need to have a Windows keyboard right next to me. Okay, it is right next to the one key. It's at the top of the keyboard. It's the tilde key, so it's that little squiggly. It goes like this. Hang on, let me pen tool it right there, real quick. So it kind of looks like this. If that were, yeah, it kind of looks like that, but not. Let me see. It looks like this. Okay. So it's a tilde key, and it kind of looks like that, and it sits. Um, so the key kind of looks like this, but it's a pretty awesome key. So if you're on the if you're on the Mac, then the tilde key is up under escape right next to the one. If you're on a PC, the tilde key is up at the top right next to the one. It's to the left of the one. So in any event, all you have to do to use it is draw the star, but keep your mouse held down, click on the tilde key, and then start pulling it out, and you'll see that you can manipulate it and get it to do all sorts of cool stuff. And then when I let go, you will see that now we have created this crazy shape just using that tilde key. So, and now though, it's a group. What key can I use to make sure, that I grab, let's say I want this, let's say I want a particular star. you know, um, what key can I use to get that particular star? And I might actually change the color. Since we're talking about that, if I want to change the color of one of my stars, I might go here, right here where I have the stroke, and I can actually like either change the color by playing with the CMYK. I can oops. I can click down here in the spectrum. Sorry. And then once I click on the spectrum, the color picker is going to show, and I can actually like pick a different color. I'm going to make it as obnoxiously bright as possible with the sole purpose of I kind of want it to stand out. So I made that one red, right? This one right here. And now I can take the red one and, manipulate it further, move it somewhere else. Maybe I'm just gonna put it here. Maybe it's the star of the show. I don't know. But I can actually move it out and manipulate it as well. Now, typically when I show you what the tilt key does, is I'm actually trying to show you like outline mode. So that being said, let me show you this really, really quick. If you're trying to select, now this was pretty easy, but let's say there was a more complicated, item and I'm trying to select it. We have this other view mode, which is awesome. And so if we go up to view and we go down to outline, we go in this mode that takes away all colors. And you know that I just made that one red, but we're not seeing that red one right now because this mode takes away all colors and allows you to individually select different parts of your drawing or or your illustration or what have you. So outline mode is your friend. Now here's the deal. When you are in outline mode, you're going to notice that the eyes in outline mode change. Like notice at the top over here in the layers panel, there's no eyeball in there. But if we go out of outline mode real quick, and I'll show you how to go back and forth, you'll see that your eyeballs are all there. So when you're in outline mode, it kind of takes away the middle part of the eye, anything except for the outlines. That's how you'll know where you are. Now, you may be wondering, how am I going back and forth? The shortcut key to outline mode, remember, I can either go to view, outline, but there's a shortcut key, which is Control or Command Y. So if I hit Command or Control Y, I'm going back and forth. And you'll know that mode, again, like if you have any trouble trying to figure out why you're not seeing your colors or why you're not seeing like your fills and stuff that you filled in, then look at your layers panel, and that layers panel is going to tell you, oh, it's because you're in outline mode. Another place that will tell you, by default right now, I'm in what's called preview mode, right? If you go up here where you're where you titled your document, it's going to tell you a lot of information. One, it's telling me that I'm at 400% zoom. Two, it's telling me that I'm in CMYK mode, meaning I have this set up for print. 3 is telling me that I'm at GPU preview. Preview is the main word that's telling you, oh, you're in preview mode. If I go into outline mode and I hit Command or Control Y, and then you're going to see, oh, you're in outline mode. Now, yours might not say GPU, just depends on your computer and how you have it set up. That's why I didn't focus on that. I'm focusing on this last word, outline or preview. So now it's telling me, oh, you're in outline mode. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's why I'm not seeing my color. Let me hit Command or Control Y, or let me go up to View Outline, and now I'll see that I have my star. Okay, so that pretty much is what I wanted to go over with you in this video. Just showing you a few of the tools that we're going to use. In the next video, I'll show you a few more of the tools like the pen tool and stuff like that. So I'll see you in a few.